Hi, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, I was looking at children. Well, we just got back from a big children fest when we went on Beth's birthday. And we chose to spend our birthday with something like 60 or 70 kids. Of course, we were very controlled when we decided that we would do this, and we made out a list with the names from the various communities, and we kept it down sensible. Let's be sensible this time. Keep it to maybe 30. That's the thing to do. So, meanwhile, later, back at the swimming pool, we have 60 or 70 children. Isn't it always the way? So, I'm looking at how all of them respond, and what you learn from children, and how they come out with the darndest things. Some of my favourite stories are about children, and the one that I said the other day was when children were discussing, they were asked questions about love, and the funny one was the one that said he was about 6 or 7, and they asked him, what do you think about love? And he said, no, I don't want to think about love. I can't stand the stress. So I think that was one that he was having. He was being a spectator in the family squabbles. I think if that's love he's thinking, I think I'll pass on it. So it was very funny anyway. But some of the ones are poignant, and I remember. Heaven knows where I get these from, but I remember thinking or reading once about a lady whose family, they were living next door to an old couple. And I say that's tongue-in-cheek, okay? But they were living next door to an old couple that they were very close to. And the lady of the old couple died. And the woman that was the neighbour had a little boy of about 5 or 6, and she came out one day very soon after the passing of the old lady, and she saw her little boy, who was always going over to see the old couple, of course, because they always gave him too many cookies, and she saw that he was sitting on the veranda, on the balcony, on the porch, and he was sitting on the old man's knee, and he was talking to him. She was very, very curious, but she kept back and she waited. And then later, when the little boy came home, just very casually, she said, I saw you with Mr. Jones there. What were you doing? And he said, I was helping him to cry. Isn't that a touching thing for me? Well, the next story down is one where it was one of those, I've forgotten what the name is now that they call it, but sometimes when people are going to experience an inevitable death in the family, a hospice will help in preparing them for what is going to be a great loss. And in this one particular case, this family had 2 children, and one of them was very close to death, and the death was inevitable. But they also had a 4-year-old girl, and the child that was going to die was a little boy, and he was very, very young, just a baby. But the little girl was very close to him and used to go in and see him giggle and laugh, and she talked to him and held his hand, and like little girls do, little mums. And the hospice were trying to counsel the couple to prepare for the loss that was to come. And it came up in conversation as to, well, how on earth is Susie going to cope? How are we going to explain this? Well, they did their best to prepare the little girl for the fact that her brother was going to heaven, and that it wouldn't be too long before this happened, and that so she should not worry, that everything was as it should be, and that she should be ready to say goodbye. Well, the day came, and they told her, Susie, remember that we told you that you would have to say goodbye. Well, your little brother is going to be going to heaven, and you need to go in now and say goodbye to him. So the little girl went into the room, and the parents kind of stood back and waited to see what would happen. And the little girl went up, and she was very, very caring. She assured the little boy, there's nothing to worry about. Any time now you're going to be leaving here and you're going to heaven, and heaven is a wonderful place. So there's nothing for you to be fearful about. And she was very adult in the way that she was talking. And then she said, and I don't want you to worry about anything when you've gone. I won't let them flush you down the toilet like they did the goldfish. From the mouths of babes. Which brings me to baby Faith, and how I really meant to say this in the last video, that when I was talking about that last meeting with the mom, and you may have seen me bring Beth over to be close up on Faith, and up to that time I'd kind of not really realized that there's a little person in there, that Faith is not the baby, she's not objectified. I mean, I see a little struggling figure, I see her there, I see her surrounded by adoring people. But on this particular occasion, I looked at the mother, and the mother was completely unaware of me, and I'm standing quite close to her. And she's looking down at the baby, and Faith was looking up at her mom and smiling, and there was this whole connection between the mother and this little baby, which for some strange reason just took me completely by surprise, because the baby's eyes were just full of light, and from the mother was just pouring this love for that little baby. And it was a most humbling experience. And that was when you may have seen that video, when I was concerned, like the hospice and that little 4-year-old girl who was being prepared to say goodbye. And I said to the mother, are you prepared? Because this is such a tiny little figure, and she hasn't made the 10 kilos that she was hoped to be able to make. She hasn't made that, not nearly, but now it's being deemed to be a race against time, and we have to go in and save baby Faith. And that was an incredibly, I don't know, it was something that I hadn't, it was a shock to me to witness that in that very short time that young mother had had that child, so imperfect in every way, and yet so perfect in every single way, that there was this bond between them. That here, you know all of that stuff about psychologists, and they're so clever, aren't they? And yes, well, a baby, it's just wind. When they smile, it's just wind. No one will convince me that the light in that child's eyes when she looked at her mother was not absolutely pure love. So, I'm going to make a video, and I want everybody to watch out for that video, because it will have the time certainly down to a few hours of when baby Faith will be operated on. And if you can do no more than think about that little girl, that will be enough. And just think, and if it's a case of just having the hope that she will be fine, that will be fine as well. Or if it's that you have someone special that you ask for help from, be it Jesus or be it some great deity, then do your asking about that time, and I will try to get a time and a date, a local time, and you can work it out for yourself when that will be for you. And hopefully you will lend your weight spiritually to helping this little girl to get through this incredible challenge for her life, which will happen, and I think it's going to happen on the 30th, but I'm not sure. It might be the 30th or it might be the 1st, but you will find out. Now, by that time, don't know why, but I think we're going to be 20 or 21,000 subscribers. Just imagine if 21,000 people thought good, healing thoughts about baby Faith at the same time, within the same time sequence as everybody else. Kind of like putting their shoulder to the wheel and pushing, and all pushing at the same time for the survival of this little girl. Wouldn't that be something? How could a prayer like that be ignored? This is a foreigner in the Philippines, and I thank you for being with me.